I'm going to ask Mr. Brian George if he'll come to the podium at this stage to lead this session on the lotteries sector. And supporting Mr. George is Mr. Mark Nicholson and Mr. Rory Chin.
My job this evening is to talk about the Jamaica gaming and lottery sector, the past, the present, and the future. Basically where we have been, where we are, and where we would like to be. But to give you a more global perspective, the public lotteries span more than 200 jurisdictions worldwide. Global gaming revenue amounted to over US $500 billion in 2013, and global lotteries accounted for 28% of that revenue. So as you can see, it is a business that is big, it is a business that is growing. And why I think it's important here today, it's a business that ensures that the regulator has something to regulate. So we will ensure, by the way, Gary. I think Gary. He's been trying to get me to say Gary for years now. Gary, I just want to let you and Amina know that Tash has been promoted to the position of Assistant Vice President of Compliance out of the mandate that you all have given, that we have somebody that is specifically designated for compliance.
So we give promotions at the BJC as well?
Yeah, you promote and you give promotions, that's right. Like, you see how that's a career path. Anyway, the lottery industry, you have the biggest lottery in the world, which is the Lottomatica, $25.1 billion of top-line revenue, going all the way down. Now, the reason that you will not have the United States as a single lottery, because as you know, the United States lotteries operate in their relevant jurisdiction. So you would have the Georgia Lottery, the California Lottery, the New York Lottery. So cumulatively, the American lottery is probably the biggest single lottery, but in terms of borders of state, the Lottomatica in Italy is the biggest lottery. As you can see, the lottery industry continues to grow. I'm sorry that these slides are from 2011. We could not get the accurate figures for 2012 and 13, but what is interesting to note in this slide is the growth of the Caribbean, South America, and Central America. Because we, as part of the Caribbean, need to understand that we really represent a high growth area for the lottery and gaming sector. As you can see, Europe has been fairly stable. North America has been fairly stable. And also the growth that comes out of Asia and the Middle East. But this is just a better representation of that slide, of the lotto games, the numbers games going forward. The origins of the lottery industry, as we heard before, goes back to the 1960s. Regulation came in place in the form of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act of 1975. It might be 65. The Sports Development Agency was formed in 1991 and sold scratch tickets, winning tickets with proceeds from the benefits of the sports development in Jamaica. The SDA was restructured to the Jamaica Lottery Company in 1994 under Howard Hamilton, an old colleague and who is here today. And online games added to its portfolio. They saw the introduction of the National Lottery, the games using the store and forward terminal systems that were used at that time. By 1999, the industry had grown to generate about $3.5 billion as a monopoly market. In 2001, Supreme Ventures was given a license and allowed to enter the market. Live lottery draws were introduced, which was a figure of the new technology that we were bringing into the market, where we were able to run our games up to 5 minutes before the draw, unlike previously where you had to stop, and in the older technologies where you had to stop 1 hour, 2 hours, in some cases 4 hours. In fact, in the Barbados lottery, because it was a small island, they used to use diskettes, for those of you who remember what a diskette was. And in fact, depending on where you were in the system, that determined when your game closed. So they would start collecting diskettes from one end of the island, move to the other end of the island, and when they've covered all the diskettes, they would go and upload it into the central system. So in that sense, the lottery had to close 3, 4, 5 hours before the draw so that they can consolidate all the information. By 2003, sales had grown to $12 billion. The industry consolidated in 2004 with the acquisition of JLC by Supreme Ventures. And in 2006, Supreme Ventures became a public company. Technology has always been the underpinning of our business. We have gone from store and forward systems. We used to use before dial-up or radio frequency. In fact, when we first came into the market, we were all known for these high sites that we had in the mountains, and to communicate with an agent, you literally had to go and point that agent to a specific high site terminal for them to be able to communicate. And we've upgraded that to GPRS now, which allows us now for faster implementation and quicker deployment of agents, which is why with the passage of the new amendment, and let me congratulate the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Commission, let me congratulate the Minister in their efforts to have ensured that this act was amended. With the GPRS systems, it now allows us to do faster rollouts of the lottery terminals. The next stage for us obviously is internet, and I heard that it was alluded to earlier in this presentation, in the presentations, that internet is on the horizon for us here in Jamaica. As I said, what underpins our industry is the integrity of the system. What is important, that every player who plays a lottery game must feel that their ticket is recorded, that they have just the same chance to win as every other player, and therefore the integrity of the system is the foundation of that. We talk about systems that have n-plexing, which is the ability to ensure that every transaction is written in multiple locations on multiple servers. So this is not a case where if the system goes down, you have to go and try to restore it to recover. The technology allows you to be able to ensure that your recording is done in multiple locations on the system. System integration and security. Open system standards. The BGLC earlier talked about connectivity of the monitoring system to the licensees. The fact that we have open system standards, we are confident that we will be able to ensure that we can connect to the BGLC system once it becomes available to us. System certification. I heard some questions earlier about systems from abroad. What we certainly believe is that in today's world, most of the reputable, if not all of the reputable software suppliers are certified in multiple jurisdictions. And in most cases, in jurisdictions which the BGLC offers or recognizes, whether it's the WLA, the World Lottery Association, whether it is NASPL, the North American Gaming Association. The security standards, the encryption standards, the data recovery standards are all standards which the industry must embrace in order to ensure that the integrity of the industry continues. Data from the industry suggests that we are in a $35 billion market, and lottery products certainly dominate that market with 71% share. Horse racing and VLT somewhat behind. I keep looking at Howard because I feel every time I talk about this, I'm going to irritate him as my friend because he has earlier comments in the horse racing business. But certainly, we have grown to be a fairly dominant industry. And I think what you said earlier, Howard, is that the industry needs to look at itself collectively to see what's in the best interest for all of the stakeholders in the industry, rather than having insular attitudes towards each person's specific needs. From the period 2001 to 2013, we have grown from 3.4 billion to approximately a $30 billion lottery business. And the Jamaican lottery market, as far as we see it, is worth about $50 billion. And therefore, what that means is that we believe that the illegal market is worth somewhere between 10 to 15 billion dollars of illegal games. Over the luncheon period, we were talking about how some of the illegal games operate, and they are becoming more sophisticated, and therefore, in some respects, we have to become equally sophisticated or more than they are in order to ensure that we're able to keep competitive with them. The total gaming market in Jamaica is potentially worth $50 to $60 billion, of which sports betting, by our research, is worth at least $8 to $10 billion. Again, that's why you would see that when you have an industry for which we have introduced the legislative capability that is at least 1/3, if not more, the size of the current lottery industry, that's a basis for us to stand up and cheer and to be excited about the future. Globally, lotteries have contributed significantly to social development. It is often used by governments as an engine to generate funds. And let me just slow down and say this to the minister. By way of appropriate levels of taxation. Let me stress the word appropriate levels of taxation. And certainly the question of contribution to good causes, example, health, education, sports, and other areas of social development. Certainly here we know that the UK lottery, known as the Camelot Lottery, is a lottery that was named among the top 10 companies worldwide for the commitment to corporate social responsibility. The Jamaican lottery industry contributes significantly in this area to corporate social being of the nation. Since 2001, we have given over $12 billion to Chase alone, Chase being culture, health, arts, sports, and education, of which sports gets the lion's share of 40%. It is important for us to recognize that this didn't start with Supreme Ventures. As you would all know, in 1998, when Jamaica went to the World Cup, that it was the Jamaica Lottery Company who was responsible for providing a significant amount of those funds that provided its successful trip to the World Cup. So this is something that has predated Supreme Ventures, but certainly something that is very much a part of the lottery industry. Over and above what we give to Chase, we are very proud as a company for what we do in the larger community. We take pride in our response to hurricane relief. We wish we didn't have to do it, but when it happens, we feel that it's important that we respond quickly. We have given over $50 million in hurricane relief. And I'm saying this not just as Supreme Ventures, I'm saying this as who we are as an industry and how we have been able to respond to national needs. In track and field, as the sponsor of the J3As, we have given over $100 million over the last 10 years in sponsorship to track and field. We sponsor significantly netball. We gave over $20 million to the Jamaican Olympic team last year, and we certainly gave over $50 million to the Jamaican 50 celebration. The industry is an industry that generates funds that really finds its way back into the social development of the country, either through Chase or directly through its good corporate citizenship outside of Chase. Total payouts across all lotteries has amounted since 2006 to approximately $160 billion of payouts to players. Over $3 billion has been paid in lottery jackpots since 2004. We have had over 120 millionaires, which we have created since 2004. The largest lottery jackpot being 240 million, and certainly in March this year, we had a winner of 110 million. And there are the pictures of millionaires. I see you take out your calculator, Minister. So, since the early 2000s, there has been significant knowledge transfer. And I'm not saying knowledge transfer because not only do we feel proud of the 3,000 plus people who we believe have gained employment directly or indirectly through the lottery industry, but there has been significant knowledge transfer. All of the lottery systems, while certified internationally and provided by international partners, are operated by local Jamaicans. And therefore, they have been trained in technology, they've been trained in systems, they've been trained in software. So the level of knowledge transfer that we have created in the industry, we believe it is something that we believe that we should be extremely proud of. We think that sports betting could add another 1,000 jobs. And we have a lottery agent network of over 1,150 agents. Keeping up with technology, as I said earlier, is critical. In the last 15 years is the PC internet-based era. Technology continues to advance. Rapid growth of smartphones and tablets worldwide, lotteries have had to keep moving and growing with technology, primarily to reach its potential market and to be able to improve its returns as a business. There are gaps. The traditional lottery player, who is between the ages of 35 and 65, has been a loyal player to the industry over the last how many ever years. But certainly the new product offerings, those product offerings do not excite the younger generation. So the 18 to 35 market, which is a more tech-savvy market, lacks the motivation to buy within the current industry, and therefore we have to find a way to communicate and motivate them to play. Additionally, one of the challenges that this industry will always suffer from is what we call jackpot fatigue, where players become increasingly desensitized to jackpot sizes. I remember when I lived in New York many years ago, if you had a jackpot that was $15 million in the New York State Lottery, you saw lines down the block. Nowadays, it takes a jackpot of about $300 million to begin to excite players to go out and line up to be able to play the lottery. Powerball, we've had to have price changes. Powerball has changed its price recently, increasing its price from $1 to $2. And certainly you have regulatory restrictions. You have places like in Brussels, there are legal and legislative battles underway for the issue of cross-border gambling. In that context, even in North America, they deal with that issue. If you look at one of the things that has compelled many of the North American lotteries, in fact, to legalize lotteries in their own state, is that when they looked at the amount of cross-border traffic, Tennessee Lottery was an example of that, where they looked at their cross-border traffic. They did not have an authorized lottery, and what happened is that their players would just drive over to the next state in Georgia, buy their lottery tickets or wherever it was, and come back into Tennessee, so that in fact they were losing that revenue as a state. Aging population of traditional players is certainly a challenge for us. Younger players preferred fast-paced games and games of skill. Shift of lottery players away from lifestyle-changing games to quick return games is a phenomenon that we have seen. When we came in again in this market, you would notice, although we have the lotto game, and in many jurisdictions, the lotto game is the primary game, why the success of the cashpot game is that the cashpot player understands that they will not change their lifestyle by the winning of cashpot. The average wager for cashpot is still relatively low. It's a game of frequency. They understand they have fun. They feel like they can beat the man, whoever the man is, whether it's the black man or the Chinese man, they can beat the man, and they can decide as to how they are able to achieve winnings because of the ability to read their environment. Increasing regulatory oversight. We've heard all the conversations here about Anti-Money Laundering and Proceeds of Crime Act. The low barriers to entry, the wide availability of technology. I started this conversation talking about the fact that the illegal game has ramped up in their use of technology, and that it is our responsibility to stay ahead of the illegal game, both as operators, legitimate operators, and regulators, to ensure that we maintain a safe and profitable gaming environment. This obviously will bring certain challenges to the fixed address retailer. And this is a classic bricks and mortar versus mobile argument in the gaming industry, with the emergence of internet and mobile gaming. The possible increase in customer base to reach a broader demographic by bridging demographic barriers through new technology and communication is very much an adaptation to some of these challenges. Introduction of lotteries in the form of mobile game space will create profitable opportunities for this industry. More options, exciting ways to play, and many ways for the consumer who has now become used to that level of convenience to play from. And certainly expansion of multi-jurisdictional games. Other lotteries include increased draw frequencies. You would have noticed that we have just introduced an 830 draw, because again, draw frequencies also drive this industry in terms of the growth of overall growth of the industry. And you need to, but obviously what this will bring with it is you need to redefine what is a draw. Because our own license, as an example, speaks to a draw being something that is shown live on TV. As draws become more complex or more mobile, the definition of a draw needs to change. And this is where, Amina, one of your, as the wife begins to redefine itself, this is another area that you will need to look at. Integration of new technology, mobile and internet gaming, subject to legislative and infrastructural framework, and the participation in multi-jurisdictional games are very much at the opportunities that we will pursue. Multi-jurisdictional games, all of us hear that term. What is a multi-jurisdictional game? It's very simple. A multi-jurisdictional game is where multiple geographic areas come together to form a lottery. They may have their own local lottery, but they band together to form a lottery. So that in the case, as you know, with Euro Millions, that represents Spain, France, Italy, and all of the other countries that participate in the Euro Millions. In the case of North America, you have the Mega Millions and the Powerball, which represents a combination of all of the states that participate in those particular areas. But as you can see, what it has done is it's driven up the lottery jackpots. Mega Millions' largest jackpot has now been $648 million, and the Powerball largest jackpot is $590 million. Not to be left behind, the Caribbean Powerball jackpot is 5.4 million as its largest jackpot. But we may scoff at that. $5.4 million of real money. As you all know, we don't advertise projected jackpots. So that when you see $648 million, by the time they give you a present value of that and take out their taxes, that 648 is more like 200 and something million. So it's important that we do really compare apples with apples. Of course, the challenges for multi-jurisdictional lotteries continues to be regulatory, providing games that deliver excitement and appeal to a diverse community. EuroMillions had that greater challenge. North America is more culturally similar. What we had to deal with in the case of the Super Lotto was that we were negotiating with different territories of very different cultural backgrounds, and in some cases they're very different language backgrounds. Dominican Republic spoke Spanish. Barbados spoke a different language. Trinidad spoke another language, and so forth. But those are some of the challenges that we had to deal with and dealing with the regulators in those environments. I'll pause here to say this, and I'm saying this as a Caribbean person because it's something as I live in Jamaica, I will say this to you. Jamaica really should be proud of the fact that bar none, Jamaica has the most advanced regulatory agent in the BGLC across the Caribbean. I know for a fact that the National Lotteries Control Board from Trinidad and Tobago has recently been in collaboration with the BGLC to look at ways of improving their regulatory environment. And at the other islands, Barbados, Antigua, and the Eastern Caribbean, tend to be significantly behind in their regulatory environment. Obviously, when you start talking about Super Lotto, you always have to be worried about the cannibalization of your local lotto game. This is a depiction of the members of the Super Lotto consortium from Dominican Republic on one end to Paraguay all the way at the other end. The Caribbean Super Lotto first started in 2009. It is operated by GTEC, only multi-jurisdictional game currently operating in the Caribbean, Central and South America, and available in Jamaica, Dominican Republic, and you can read the rest. 2013 Super Lotto sales were $13 million, and I'm just saying this to say that we have also seen multi-jurisdictional lotteries as a way of driving up sales and maintaining the interest in the market for people. So it is what it is, and I've said enough about that. Sports betting. Global sports betting business is somewhere between 400 million to 700 billion, 400 billion to 700 billion as an industry. In fact, some people think that the global sports betting industry is probably closer to $1 trillion. Why that is important to you is that at 400 to 700 or even $1 trillion of revenues, the global sports betting industry, in a sense, is bigger than the global lottery industry. And therefore, that should tell you something about the excitement that we have as the potential for sports betting here in Jamaica. Because as we expect to follow trends as we do in other things, we expect sports betting to be equally successful here. In 2012, sports betting gross revenue was $58 billion in 2012, but as I said earlier, that is what the industry potential is. And right now it is only accounting for 14% of global gaming revenues, but growing rapidly. Sports betting is the fastest area of growth in the global industry. Sports betting is viewed as a game of skill, which allows people to use their knowledge of the game to be able to ensure that they bring the odds more into their favor, which again is why the younger demographic is so caught up with the appeal of sports betting. Industry trends suggest that in-play betting is an area of high growth. I know my friends across the aisle, I want to use a term that people are familiar with, who are our competitors in sports betting. They offer in-play betting, and I understand how successful it is. In-play betting basically allows you to bet within a game after the game has started, so that you may bet on who will score the next goal. You may bet on who will whatever specific event may occur in the second half or the first half or whatever the case may be. In fact, in England, in game betting is so strong that when two batsmen leave the pavilion, people will better say, see who will get to the pitch first. Football betting has the largest percentage share of the market, with punters largely betting on European football, and I'm talking about in Jamaica here, European English Premier League, UEFA, and the German Bundesliga. Years in which there are large international sporting events have created exponential increases in sales for the sports betting business. That's why we're interested in this year. That's why the timing of what we are doing as it relates to FIFA becomes so important. Given the general increase in smartphones and other mobile devices, as well as greater levels of internet penetration, World Cup 2014 worldwide is expected to have the highest rate of football betting of any event of its kind. Sports betting brands, Just Bet by Supreme Ventures and another brand. Sales, you all know me. Sales in the local sector has grown by over 500% since 2010. High potential for growth, in a society that traditionally loves sports. Industry potential, as we said here, is $8 to $10 billion. We believe strongly, and let me say this emphatically, we believe very strongly in the promotion of responsible gaming. We were early to embrace RISE and in promoting and encouraging responsible gaming across the lottery and gaming sector. Lottery and sports betting are not and should never become vehicles for fraud. Due to the small size of our country, we have taken a decision that we will not take bets on local sporting events because we understand in a small society what that could mean in terms of seeking to influence the outcome of a game in a local environment. So we have taken as a policy decision that we will not take bets on local events and because of the potential of corruption. This, as I said, is an effort to preserve the integrity of the industry. Where are we heading now? Internet gaming, iGaming, the online gaming industry comprises remote gaming activities that could be spread all over the world. Segments include online sports betting, casino games, poker, bingo, lottery, as well as social interactive games. According to KPMG, I know a couple of their people are here, the worldwide gaming market for internet gaming in 2010 was seen to be approximately 32 billion. I suspect it is significantly higher than that now. And the total iGaming revenues amounted to 38 billion in 2012 and estimated to be 41 billion in 2013. Again, a high area of growth, which is why, again, we are anxious to see a timely implementation of the internet regulations to facilitate this other new frontier in the gaming environment. Existing brick and mortar casinos operators have expanded themselves into online gaming. You have now Caesars Interactive. I just saw the site Fox was Interactive, so that all of the major players are already beginning this process of moving their casinos into an online environment. Regulations may vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, with Europe facilitating the greatest level regarding online gaming. Many companies abandoned the United States because of their unlawful Internet Gaming Enforcement Act, and they moved to Europe and over to other parts of the world because of some of this. So what that says is that over-enforcement can kill business. And therefore, finding the right balance between enforcement and opportunity really becomes part of that love struggle that Amina spoke about earlier in her presentation. Governmental legislation and regulation to facilitate online gambling, adequate traffic of revenue, tracking of revenues, regulations to avoid underage gambling and underage gaming. Clearly, once you now have that ubiquitous device called a cell phone, we have to ensure that appropriate layers of protection are in there to protect from underage gaming in that environment. It therefore requires a solid infrastructure for broadband internet connectivity. What this will do is it will drive your telecommunications industry, because in order to support the commercial requirements of this type of environment, the telecommunication industry will need to step up to the 4G and hopefully soon the 5G technology that will allow for that type of connectivity. Easy access to mobile applications and safe and secure payment options going forward. That's some. Another area of emergence is what we call social games. Social gaming refers to games hosted on social networks. A lot of this became very popular in the 90s, certainly with the kids. And now you've seen with things such as Pac-Man, for those of you old enough to remember when there was Pac-Man in clubs, and people would sit down and 4 people would play Pac-Man or 2 people would play against each other Pac-Man. That was the emergence of a social gaming environment. The other feature is obviously in the sense that people are playing, whether they're in their own space or in some virtual space, and the next player could be any part of the world. But we define social space gaming to say games that are available in places where people go to do something else, not primarily for gaming. So if I go to a bar to have a drink with my friends and there's a game that is socially appealing, that is appealing in terms of its connective, in terms of its in content engagement, we will be able to derive revenues from that. And that, we believe, is another area that we are pursuing aggressively. We have seen things like Angry Birds, World of Candy Crush, and we've seen how all of these games have become mega phenomena in the internet space using smartphones. The need for the industry to translate entertainment into revenue is still a challenge. That has probably been the most difficult thing that this industry has faced.
Remember the 6 o'clock thing is a joke.
Yeah, no, I almost finished. Morgan Stanley, yada, 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 5 o'clock. Proliferation of online game, interactive games, single-player games, and so forth, all of these are the other aspects of it. We now talk about the issue of mobile gaming. Mobile gaming, we have talked about that as we have anytime, anywhere, and that is critical in terms of both the experience and the availability of the game. I heard Juniper research referred to by the minister in terms of the value of the mobile gaming market at $100 billion by 2017. And mobile devices are now poised to become the primary choice of gaming worldwide. And that's the growth of gaming. You can get a copy later so you can read it. Technology has served to revolutionize the industry. The development of smartphones, such as iPhones and Android devices, as well in the creation of mobile applications, have changed the way the world does business. We have seen that already. And certainly you are seeing other areas of growth. Internet gaming provides a major challenge, given that it is potentially representing games without borders. Results in difficulty regulating and taxing operations in this particular segment, likely to result in resistance from churches and religious groups. This represents a unique challenge in containing the market to Jamaica and may result in a global nature, in the loss of the true global nature of this market. But we must remember with internet gaming, when we open our doors to go out, we are also opening our doors for people to come in. And therefore, but this, however, does not negate the opportunities it represents for distribution of traditional lottery products. Gary,
Yes, sir.
in summary.
As long as it's not
In
6 o'clock.
summary, the total Jamaican market is about $50 to $60 billion. Local sports betting industry presents high growth potential and great prospects for job creation. The local gaming and lotteries industry continues to contribute significantly to the social development of the nation. Over $160 billion, as I said, in prizes. The industry has contributed in the area of permanent jobs. Legislation should be aimed at fostering growth rather than stifling growth through taxation. Technology will serve to further revolutionize the industry. We have to continue to innovate and invest, creating new challenges for growth and diversity. Mobile gaming, betting, lotteries, etc. has developed into one of the most exciting areas of the gaming industry. Need for strong legislative support, maintaining good and focused social responsibility, and a robust, certified, tested, secure technology that underpins and preserves the integrity of the industry. Thank you very much.